Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, after spending 17 years working for Coca Cola, 4 of which was spent spearheading its Irish operations, Val Quinn now runs her own coaching and mentoring business called Tilly. Val joins us now to tell us about her time with the global brand and the inspiration for her book, Create Your Best Life, Reimagine, Rewire, Retire. Val, after completing a BCom degree and a Masters in Marketing, you moved to London. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, good morning. And when I finished college back in 1990, Ireland was in the middle of recession time. So a lot of us got the plane or the boat over to London. And I was fortunate enough to get a graduate trainee role with Sharwood's, which was Indian and Chinese food. So I started life selling curry to Indian businesses in East End London. So that's where I cut my sales and then subsequently marketing cloth. And then I joined from there into CPC, which is now part of Unilever, and I worked on the great British brands of Bovril and Marmite before returning to Ireland to work on Bailey's cream liqueur. So I was fortunate to work on some lovely, very big brands in terms of my background.
So you spent 17 years then with Coca Cola. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I was invited to apply to be the commercial director for Coke in Ireland. That's both north and south. And so I did that role for about 3.5 years, working with the local bottling company called Hellenic, or Coca Cola Hellenic. Then the managing director of the time moved back to Australia, so I was able to apply for the role, and I became the first Irish person to manage the Coke business in Ireland, as well as the first female and as well as the youngest. So they're my sort of 3 claims to fame. And I did that role for about 4 years, managing a team of 24 people, working very closely with the bottlers and managing the Coke brand in Ireland, which was a huge privilege. And then I moved on. There was a restructure where we aligned our business with Europe, and I was then offered a global role. So I managed customers internationally, working from Ireland, but traveling around the world, managing in the first case the food service business, Compass Food Service from a Coke perspective, and then moving on to manage the petrol retail customers, so Shell and Circle K and BP and some other businesses with some colleagues of mine in terms of the international relationship and ensuring that Coke was available through the petrol retail outlets.
Coca-Cola, of course, is one of the most powerful and successful brands in the world. What did you learn from working there over the 17 years, Val?
Well, one of the things people say, and I think they also say it, no doubt, about some other big brands like Guinness, well, you know, Coca-Cola, you don't need to market that, sure, everybody knows about it. And actually, you do need to market it to ensure that people understand your full range of products, what's available. You need to be on trend in terms of now people wanting less sugar, for example, in their drinks. So we launched Coca-Cola Zero during my reign. People wanting, for example, to drink more water or healthier drinks. So really a lot of research and understanding consumer needs and need states, and then developing products to fulfill those needs and or buying them in. So, for example, Innocent Smoothies is a Coca-Cola product within their range, and that was a range of products that Coke bought in order to satisfy consumer needs. And subsequently, Coke bought Costa Coffee, which I then, in my last role with Coke, I helped to launch Costa Coffee into Central and Eastern Europe. So really you've got to understand the consumer needs and being able to fulfill those needs with the product portfolio. As well as that, even on a big brand such as Coca-Cola, it's all very well to have these international marketing programs, but you can't necessarily have something that is too Americanized, for example, and trying to talk to the Irish consumer. You want to, in some way, yes, have that proposition from the States, but being able to localize it in terms of how you deliver on the programs to an Irish consumer. So, for example, we did the Dublin side of Coke in terms of our messaging and maybe even introducing a little bit of a sense of humour as you localize the programs.
And as well as it being a beverage company, of course, it's a very sophisticated supply chain organisation as well. I recall hearing an interview with the World Health Organization during COVID, and they were saying that they were engaging with Coca-Cola worldwide to use their supply chain to make sure that the vaccines were available in third world countries all over the world.
Yeah, Coke can leverage their route to market and in lots of different ways that people wouldn't even think about. And then they also have a huge support in terms of their CSR programs. So say, for example, when there was flooding in the States in certain places, Coke were the first people in on the ground. Because we had, say, fountain machines in there, we had to go in and switch off those fountain machines in terms of making sure that they weren't using water supply that could be contaminated. But because we were therefore first on scene in some of these areas that this was happening, we could also bring in with us fresh water to help support those local communities that could therefore need and be supported in terms of fresh water supplies. So they can leverage their real strength in terms of distribution and route to market for lots of different areas that people wouldn't naturally think of first off.
And for any business owner listening this morning that's looking to draw some inspiration from Coca Cola, what advice have you got for them?
I think understanding your consumer needs is number one. Number two, developing your customer relationships. So those partners that are helping you to deliver your product to that end consumer. So it's not when you get into a negotiation, it should be a win-win, and so that you're building long-term relationships that can be sustainable and that you can help to develop and grow each other's businesses rather than a win-lose situation. And that will be this customer relationship, and having the customer at the center of your discussions and your partnership is critical to success in any business.
And many businesses, of course, are now facing adversity due to a challenging commercial environment. But you've overcome adversity in your own life as well.
So, well, in my own life more recently, I went blind in my right eye a couple of years ago, during COVID actually. So I was blind for a week because they couldn't operate on it, given that with COVID, the hospitals were closed to certain operations. Thankfully, I was then able to get in and get my sight restored. But it does give you a different perspective. And for me, I think it's important to reflect on your life and to practice gratitude and to be able to say, okay, well, what was the lesson in this for me, and how can I be grateful going forward, and how does that change my perspective on what do I want out of life, and how can I also give back in life.
And then you went and you established Tilly, and you're now working as a trainer and a coach and a mentor. So talk to us about how that personal experience actually provided that purpose-led life for you.
Yeah, so I did a mentoring and coaching leadership course with Kingston College. And in that, I had a lot of coaching and mentoring experience through Coke and my previous business experience. But in doing the course, you're also required to go through a lot of coaching and mentoring yourself, which causes you to reflect on your own life and what you want. And with that, therefore, learning frameworks and tools to help others to live a purpose-led life, or to really understand what it is that they want out of their life. That I really enjoyed doing that. So yes, I do some business training, but I also do some life coaching. I think we only have one life, and yes, we need to earn money and to pay bills and mortgages, etc. But if we can find something that we have a love of or we're passionate about, then that makes it all the more rewarding in terms of the work that we do, and creating time outside of work to enjoy some hobbies and family and friends as well.
And for those listening this morning that maybe aren't sure about what their purpose is, how can they unlock it?
I would always, and of course I would say this given that I am now a coach, but it's very useful to get yourself a coach or to do a course. The power of reflection is amazing in terms of looking back. There's an exercise called the Lifeline exercise, for example, where you can look back and reflect on your life and go, here's the things that I've enjoyed in my life, and here's the things that I've enjoyed less, perhaps, or not enjoyed. And then trying to understand, okay, well, how can I get more of the things that I've enjoyed and reduce the things that I haven't enjoyed? And it's through reflection that you can then decide going forward what you want to do and what you can focus on and perhaps grow.
And of course, endurance and resilience are invaluable skill sets to possess in life. But how can people go about developing those?
For me, I think there's a huge parallel of sport and business. So for me, I've set myself goals, and I would always encourage people to set personal goals as well as business goals. And in my personal life, I started to do triathlon. And through practice and entering different races and joining a club and getting advice, then you can actually build skill sets and build resilience. And things go wrong, of course they do, but as you go through practice and trying, and I think consistency helps you to build resilience. So people will give you information, help you to try something new, then you'll come across a hurdle, then you get over that hurdle, and that gives you confidence to go forward and overcome other challenges and hurdles. So you build resilience over time through consistency of effort and through asking other people's advice and input.
And provide us with an insight into the work that you do with Tilly.
So Tilly now, I have a sort of an eclectic mix of things that I like to do. I do some business training, so I've worked with companies in terms of leadership development and strategy development. I work with companies such as P&G and Superbet. I also have worked with the state body, Board BIA. I've worked with Walfred Wealth Management. I've also worked with P&G, so helping their women leaders who are new as women leaders to be successful in their roles going forward, set them up for success.
And what would you like to see government do in terms of being able to remove some of the obstacles that are preventing female leaders from rising above that glass ceiling?
Well, it does come down to a lot of the time supporting, number one, supporting diversity, whether that's gender diversity or any marginalised group. So it shouldn't just be females. But within the female group, we know that more females at a senior level and on boards actually lead to higher success for businesses. I mean, that's proven statistically. So we do have now initiatives that are saying there needs to be equal level of female and male on boards within the next 3 to 5 years. And I do think that that's a good initiative, as well as I do think that there needs to be more work done in terms of equal pay across the diverse groups. Outside of that, there's lots of programs that are supported by government in terms of training, not only for females, but across the board through your local enterprise offices and SkillNet Ireland, etc. So I think basically marketing those better so that people can actually understand what's available so that they can avail of these training courses and support and funding that is available, because not everybody is aware of what is actually all available already.
I want to speak to you next about your book, Create Your Best Life, Reimagine, Rewire and Retire. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So for me, that was something that came out of my time through COVID, going blind, and then subsequently taking voluntary redundancy from Coke and thinking about what I wanted to do next. And I sat down and I thought, what will I do next? And then I thought, well, lots of people must go through this, whether it's being through voluntary redundancy or forced redundancy, and being faced with, and perhaps at 30s, 40s, 50s, what will I do next and what do I enjoy? So I came up with this term, reimagining, rewiring or retiring. And reimagining is somebody who's fundamentally been on one career path or busy doing something all day long in one space or field, and then they fundamentally change. So, for example, in the book is Nora Casey under the reimagining space. As we know, she was a nurse, and then she reimagined her career into a publisher, and then she's reimagined her career again now into the media space. So that would be reimagining. Rewiring will be somebody more like myself, which I've had a career in sales and marketing and general business throughout my life. And now I'm no longer working in that full time, but I am leveraging those same skills in a more eclectic portfolio type work environment. But I haven't fundamentally changed like in the reimagining space, but I'm just leveraging those skills in a slightly different way. And then retiring, I guess we all understand the word, but retiring from, say, my dad or my grandparents' age, where, you know, they retired and smoked a pipe and unfortunately passed away a few years later. Now people retire, they're living longer, they're healthier. They want to continue giving back to society, whether that's in a voluntary role and or they want to, you know, buy a camper van and travel the world. So retiring now is very different than it was 20, 30 years ago, you know. So within this book, we've got 42 contributors. They all wrote their stories free of charge, pro bono, from 9 different countries, because I didn't want it just to be about Irish people talking about their lives. I wanted it to have more global feel to it in terms of what are some of the common themes, but also what are some of the differences across the board. And also it's 75% female, 25% male. All the money is going to charity, so all the net proceeds after printing is going to charity. And we're hoping to fund a guide dog for the blind, which costs €53,000. And outside of that, to also help mental health charities, because unfortunately, that is really critical for us now. There's a lot more talk about it, but I myself have known 3 people that have died by suicide in the last 6 months. So it's still critical that we support this area, that people are able to find the support that they need in terms of mental health.
I often find that people are so busy on the treadmill of life that they never get an opportunity to stop and take that time to reflect or to plan ahead. Is that something you have found yourself? And if so, what's the solution to it?
Well, it's amazing, and exactly your point is that people don't take the time to reflect because we are all so busy with the daily life and the daily grind. And actually, when I did my book launch only a couple of months ago, as I was talking about the book to the audience, I had about 120 people at the book launch. I paused for a moment and I said, right, okay, let's just take 1 minute. I want you to close your eyes and reflect on your childhood, reflect on something that made you very happy and that you want to tap into. And what from that feeling would you like to bring into today? And I gave it 1 minute of time, right? And post the launch, I had several people text me and go, thank you for giving me that 1 minute. Here's an action I'm going to take. And that was 1 minute, the power of 1 minute.
Wow.
We can find that in our day. Whether you're driving your car to work or to the shopping or whatever it may be, just pause and take time to reflect and tap into your inner needs, wants, what makes you happy. And I think we haven't been necessarily taught that skill, but if we can take the time to do it, it's extremely powerful.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was the former Managing Director of Coca Cola in Ireland, Val Quinn from Tilly, and her book, Create Your Best Life, Reimagine, Rewire, Retire, is an inspiring read.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.